Okay, we're going to spend, say, 15-20 minutes on the CDM 2100. Um, Not a lot to it, so it's not going to take the full hour, but let's go ahead and delve into it. So basically, there's two main components there you see on the right hand side. So it's a 13-inch by 12-inch plastic box with the 1611 mounted in it. Basically, the idea was an innovative bolt-on solution to monitor, protect, and display the differential pressure across any of the catalysts on these big engines. That's typically used as an indication of the catalyst performance and the efficiency. So you can see there in the bottom right-hand corner, that is the actual DP transducer that we'll be using. So it's essentially a 14-inch, negative 14-inch water column to positive 14-inch water column. So 1 pound across the spectrum. So we'll get into a little more as we go through the slides. But that transducer, what we're trying to do is get into a cost-competitive product that not only gave you the pressure, the delta P across the catalyst, but also tried to do it more reasonably than what some of the choices that were presently out there. One of them being the Rosemont, which was more in the range of about $4,300 with no display that some of the customers were using. And then the DCL also has an option that's more in the $5,500 range. So we were trying to come out with something that wasn't so expensive, but also gave you a display. So that was the idea here with this product. System is easy to configure, operate, and troubleshoot. Most of you out there are already familiar with our DSG gauges, and they work well. So we ended up in the end using just a single point DSG 1611 DUPS. It's housed in that rugged industrial enclosure, so that can be mounted outside or in a building, pretty much up to you. The first prototype we installed, we did mount it outside, just left it out, and it was in the winter. The pricing for the product, so the enclosure, the CDM 2100 is $1,350 user. Then the DP transducer, which they're fairly expensive devices. They're $1,250 user, and then the only other item that you really need would be the harness, and that's either a 5-foot, a 10-foot, or a 30-foot harness there, and you can see $65, $72, and $99. So that's pretty much the cost of this product. And then this is actually a picture of the first prototype we installed. So some of you are probably really familiar with DSG products, and you can see this is a 2-channel. So I just snapped a quick picture of it, but you can see it. What's nice is it has a large display, and the 0.73 pressure across that catalyst is in the range of ½ inch tall, so it's easy to see. But that first one was a 1692 for a prototype, but then we did, like I said, switch up to the single point 1611 DSG, which I think in the end was a better way to go, because you not only have a 4 to 20 out, but you also have RS-45 communications. So just that's why that has a 2-channel display there. So this is really what it would look like if it was a 1611, and that's what's in the product now. And you can see we recalibrate this at the factory, and it's ready to go when it leaves our factory. It's calibrated, like I said, negative 14 inches of water column up to positive 14 inches of water column. And that's why you see down below here, it's at 12 milliamps at 0. Because, like I said, at 4 milliamps, it's a negative 14 inches, and at 20 milliamps, it's a positive 14 inches. So directly in the middle, it would be 12 milliamps. So that's pretty much how the display would show out there in the field. And then some of the transducer specs I put in here, some of the main ones, though, is this is a stainless steel transducer. It's made out of 300 stainless. Something else important is it'll work anywhere from 11 to 300 volts. I mean to 30 volts, 11 to 30 volts DC. And of course we used 24 when we were out there, but and then loop resistance is good from 0 to 1,000 ohms. Obviously, maximum overpressure is 250, so that wouldn't be a problem. There is a zero in span for the 4 to 20. You can adjust it plus or minus 1 milliamp. I don't think you'd ever have to do that, but it does have 2 pots in the top of the DP transducer, so if you ever did need to tweak that in, it could be done. And the accuracy is 0.25%. This could be used with pressure or with liquids, this DP transducer. So it has Viton and silicon O-rings inside. And if it was liquids and you had to bleed it, there are a couple of screws on the side of the DP device, the transducer, that you actually could bleed out the liquids and until you got rid of all the bubbles in the line and so forth. But in our case, we didn't have to do any of this, just looking across the catalyst. The catalyst input and output pressures are plumbed directly to the DP transducer, and it has a 3-pin military connector on the side of it. That's something, that we put in there to make life easy. So again, those cables are 5, 10, and 30 feet, plug right in with a 3-pin military connector, and then you hook 2 wires up here on the right-hand side. You can see where the sensor in and sensor out connections are. And other than the power connections, you're pretty much good to go. So this is a fairly easy installation to do. The associated configuration, inclusive of the system setup, safety set points, and any analog and digital outputs, is accomplished directly through the keypad. So most of us are familiar with programming DSG devices. The manual may be 30 pages long, but you pretty much can program these devices without the manual if you needed to. It's that intuitive and fairly easy. I talked to a guy through a DSG where he didn't have the manuals just the other day, 2 days ago, and it's pretty easy once you look at the screens and get ask a few questions and you can run with it. It's that easy. But on the right-hand side here, you can see you got your power connections, your sensor in, sensor out, which would go to the DP transducer. But you've also got a 4 to 20 out from the DSG 1611. So if that information needed to be sent over to a PLC or some other device, you do have a 4 to 20 out if needed. And that's fully, adjustable from, we're programming it to be 4 to 20 out from negative 14 to positive 14 inches of water column, but we all know you can make that 4 to 20 do whatever you want with the micro inside of the DSG 1611. So, so that 4 to 20 may be needed in some applications for PLCs or other information. Then you got your 2 switches. So you got 2 normally either a latching or non-latching. You got switch 1 or switch 2. One we're using to turn the light on, the big LED red light on the front of it. And then the other one we're using to kill either annunciator or trip a PLC or whatever you want to use that switch for. So one's strictly controlling the large red LED fault light on the front of the product. And then of course you do have RS-485 with Modbus RTU communications if that was ever needed also. So 4 to 20 and RS-485 is capable from the 1611. And then also, this product, once you calibrate it up, it may not be a bad idea, with your communications if you're using it, and the 4 to 20 to set a 3-digit password so nobody goes in and changes your set points, messes with your communications or your 4 to 20 calibration. So, like I said, you can protect just communications, just set points, or you can protect everything with 3-digit code here if you wanted with the 1611. And this is the application we put on in the winter, which was the first prototype. And you can see the dimensions on the right-hand side. It's roughly 13 tall and 12 wide. But that's a waterproof box. And you can see it was left outside in the middle of winter here, so it was a fairly large catalyst on a 3600 cat where this one actually went into, and you can see the black transducer at the top, and then the box directly below, and you can see if it's ground mounted catalyst, as that one was very large, in that last slide, it's a good idea to mount the DP transducer at a height higher than the catalyst ports, so that any condensation from the hot exhaust in the cold winters up here, we wanted to flow back any of that condensation or water back to the catalyst housing rather than into our DP transducer. So once you get it to that height where you want it, it's a good idea to level the transducer, just to make it work right. I mean, basically inside of it, you've got a diaphragm looking at both the inlet and the outlet of the catalyst, and then it's basically moving catalyst plates, and when those or capacitance plates, and when those capacitance plates move, they put out a proportional 4-to-20 depending on which way the diaphragm is actually moving. So it's really a good idea to level that transducer when you're installing it. And you can see here on the left hand side, we had a couple of pieces of unistrut, but they weren't just tall enough in the original installation. So you can see the piping actually is going downhill to the DP transducer, and that we kind of knew from the beginning was not a good idea. And it just strictly was that we didn't have long enough unit strut. So the distributor was kind enough to go ahead and add 8-inch pieces and then change the piping so that we went uphill and kept the water away from that DP transducer. And you can see they've leveled that DP transducer nicely, and that product worked well and no problems. It's been installed for 6 months, and it works well. And that one there, we hooked up to a annunciator system to kill it, but you can see in the real product, that was the prototype. We've added a very large red LED where you can actually see there was a hole there for a power switch. So in place of the power switch went the very large red LED for a fault indicator. Just in case, some customers may or may not hook this up to a shutdown, but at least when they walk by it, you'll see the big red light, and you'll know something is wrong. If it's meeting its set point, and the catalyst may be getting plugged up or whatever. But in that case, I could see people where they won't hook it up to kills. So you got the best of both worlds there. And then this one here, with the installation blanket completely mounted around that very large ground-based catalyst, it was going to be tough to get to either side. So to make life easy, the distributor did drill and tap the pipe plugs to take our 3/8-inch tubing over to the DP transducer. So that made life a lot easier. And like I said, there's not a lot to the CD2100. It's not very complicated. So I guess we'll open it up to if anybody has any questions on that product.
Does anybody have any questions for Paul? Interesting device. It really is. Really very much optimized for the application, and to really give us us and you a new business to focus on here, in one that is a highly competitive way. I mean, as Paul mentioned here, the Rosemount, based on the detail we got when we first started looking at this, is about a $4,300 solution. So this is obviously significantly less.
Hey, Paul, this is Michael Young. Have you guys put this into the 4000 or interfaced it with any of our other products?
Not that I know of, Mike. Maybe if any of the distributors have done it or other field guys, they can speak up, but that hasn't been done as far as I know of. Now, I haven't said that, Mike. Obviously, that DP transducer that puts out a 4-to-20, and if you had a 4,000, you wanted to put that directly into a 4,000. I mean, obviously it could be done.
I guess the impetus to my question is in California, I know specifically is some of the stuff needs to be data logged to prove you're in compliance, right? So it's just one of those things that you can go back and say, hey, we didn't trip or anything. So yeah, it's more of like data logging capability. That hey, we've kept it within the whatever 2 inches or whatever the spec is.
Right. If I don't have any more questions, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the Flashguard leads. Some of you probably have seen this, but we have had many new people come on with the distributors, and we're going to go ahead and go through this Flashguard presentation. You see the Flashguard presentation, Dave?
Sure do.
Okay, great. Okay, so if nobody has any more questions on the CD1 or the CD2100, CDM 2100, then I'll the Flashguard system, Flashguard 2.0 secondary plug system. So the idea behind the Flashguard leads was long-term reliability, cost-effective maintenance. Basically, you can rebuild these in the field if need be. There was a large range of component options to produce basically any secondary lead you actually need, from 6 inches all the way to 24 inches, depending on what type of engine you're actually on. And then these leads can be manufactured by us or can be manufactured by the distributors at their site. So this system has worked out well. And other than the pre-made leads that we have, a good majority of them are done right at the distributors' locations. So basically, the 2.0 Flashguard system is customizable secondary spark plug solutions for natural gas, large bore, and medium and high speed engines. So the leads are designed to be assembled and rebuilt in the shop or field using a wide range of standard components. So we have a variety of Teflon extension lengths, like I said, anywhere really from 6 inches all the way up to 24 inches. We also have 3 different wire styles, so standard copper, stainless steel, or a very stiff wire where you want the secondary wire to stand in between 2 cylinder heads and not touch either one. So we'll go over that a little bit later, but as we go through here, you'll see that we have multiple choices when you build these leads. So pretty much, pick and choose what you like to your likings. The extension includes an internal resistor, 5,000 ohms. So these Teflon extensions have 5,000 built into them, which we'd recommend. It's really kind of recommended to have between 5 and 10,000 ohms in the secondary path. And then we also have an additional 1K suppressor that's available in the, to be plugged into any of the unshielded coils. So that's common on a lot of the pre-made leads also. Having said that, the closer you can get that resistor to the actual plug or to the actual spark is the best option. Finished extensions are now factory stock. So we do offer multiple pre-made leads like the Caterpillar 300, the 3300, 3400, the Waukesha VHPs, and then the Cummins 5.9 liter, 8.3 liter, and the Cummins 855. So those are already pre-made, sitting at our factory waiting to be purchased, and we stock 6 or 7 dozen of these at all times, so that there isn't no long lead time on these pre-made leads. So and we'll hit those a little later. So when you're building a lead, there's really 6 steps that you have to pick or go through to design a lead. So whether what extension length do you actually need, what plugs are you using. Are you using a 14 millimeter plug or an 18 millimeter or 7/8 plug? And then you have the choices between 6, 9, 12, 18, or 24-inch Teflon extensions, depending on what plug style you're using. And then you need to pick your coil connection, and as we'll step through it as we go through the slide presentation here, but the extender connection configuration, wire boot configurations, and then any accessories that you need. But let's just go through it one by one here. So step one, you basically have to tell us whether you're using a 14 millimeter, an 18 millimeter, or 7/8 plug. And in that case, the 14 millimeter, you have the choice between the 6 and a 9-inch extension. Usually those are smaller engines, and you don't need the long Teflon extension depths for the smaller engines. But if you get into the 18 millimeter, the 7/8, maybe you're working on a Worthington or something with a very long well depth, then you can see you have 6, 9, 12, 18, and if you really need a 24-inch, we can come up with 24-inch Teflon also, and that has been done. So the main things here on the right is that I like to make it people pay attention to is the different well depths. So you can see at the top the 597-41-X. That's for the 6 and the 9-inch, and that has a short well depth there. I think it's 1 3/8. If you can look at the dimensions there, I can't even see it. They're so small. But then on the right-hand side, those are made for the bigger bore engines. So that'd be the 18 millimeter and the 7/8 plugs, and that's going to be more for the 1.5 to 2-inch ceramic lengths. So that well depth's going to be deeper. So you have to be careful when you're ordering one Teflon or another that you get the right one. Obviously, if you had a short plug and you try to use it in the 597-42-X, which is the far right-hand extension, it's not going to fit. It's going to be too short, or it won't actually make connection. So you have to be careful with that particular case there, that you order the right extension for your application. Some of the 14 millimeter plugs have very short ceramics, so just be aware of that. And you can see all of these have the 5,000 ohm built-in resistor right there in the tables. In step two, you're going to have to tell us what kind of coil you're connecting up to. So if it's going to be a shielded coil, you're going to have the choice down below of the on the left-hand side, the 597-053, or seems like the majority of applications out there in the world use that 510-480, which is in the lower right-hand corner there, and that's pretty common out there in the world with shielded coils. That seems to be the one that people use. And then right above it are for the unshielded coils. So the 504-040. We've all seen that. That's the cheaper option. But on the pre-made leads, we're using the straight 597-050, which is the one at the very top on the right-hand side. And that basically has a one-time you click it on, and then you can't pull that off. That has a C-ring on that part right there, the 597-052. And once it clicks on it, you can't pull it off. And the nice thing about that connection right there on our pre-made leads is that unit has a 1K resistor built inside. Both the 90 and the top one, which is the 597-050, the straight and the 90 have a 1,000 ohm resistor built into them. So adds a little bit of resistance in the path to attenuate the RFI from the high voltage at the plug. So that would be your step two, you picking the coil connection. And then your step three, how are you going to connect up to the Teflon extension? So you can see the 597-082 on the right. That's actually looks like the top of a spark plug, and that can screw into the top of the Teflon. But over the last few years, I've noticed that almost everybody is using this 597-081 that gets crimped onto the secondary wire and it's screwed right into the top of the Teflon. So that seems like the universally the one that people are using. So that gets put on with a special tool, which it shows up in a slide a little bit later, but that gets crimped onto the secondary wire. This is the actual tool that's being used, this Beirut tool. And I think at this point, most of the distributors have this tool already. But I am told that this tool is no longer made, is what I've been told. And there is another tool that replaces it that actually is much cheaper, and many of the distributors already have that tool. So we've got a replacement for this that's probably less than a third the cost of this one, anyways, if you don't already have this particular Beirut tool. And then step 4. What type of boot you're going to put on to meet up with the Teflon extension here. You've got either the 597-011, which is a 90 degree, or you've got the 597-010, which is a straight. And it's pretty much just up to customer preference, and just run the secondary wire through, and then it pops onto the top of the Teflon extension. And once it's on, they don't come off. Pretty tough to get off of there. And step 4, your accessories. What type of plug are you using with that Teflon extension? And then you're going to have the 3 O-rings from the blue over to the black. And the blue one's basically used with the 7/8 or 18 millimeter plugs. The red middle one is used more with the 14 millimeter plugs. And then that black 597-072 is used for the very small plugs, like the RC78 PYP Champion plug, where they have a very thin ceramic. It's about 0.41 inches. So it's very small. They're used in SIPs, screw-in pre-chambers, and so forth. But we do occasionally run across people using that real small spark plug. And the ceramic is so thin that you have to use that 597-072 with that particular thin application plug. So that's what that one is for. And then you've got a rain cap or a well boot there, the 597-020. And then lastly, on the far left, you have the 597-080, and that just snaps around the secondary wire to keep it up off the head, or wearing on metal parts. So we're all familiar. Those are even used in automotive applications. So that just keeps the secondary wire up off the metal. And then step 6 is you have to pick which secondary wire you actually want. So the top one is the 503, 186, 100. That's the standard secondary wire that we're all familiar with. It's black, it's tin copper, and very, very common. It's got to be the most common wire out there. But then the stainless steel second one down is the 503, 369. We've had that for probably 15 years now, and we do sell quite a bit of it. But it's more used for the applications where you have a lot of H2S or you have a lot of corrosion. And then that's basically a good choice, because the stainless holds up to the H2S, and it's not much tougher than the copper. That's more of a yellow metal that corrodes. So that one, the bright blue fluorescent jacket, kind of gives you an idea that is the stainless steel wire. And then lastly, we've had this one for about 4 or 5 years now, I'd say, and that's the extra stiff wire, the 503, 425. And it's probably the least used out of all 3 of them. But like I said, that's extra stiff, and it's tin copper, so it is a copper core wire. But it is stiff, so it tends to stand up in between two heads or 2 cylinder heads, or whatever you're trying not to lean it against. That one would probably be the one that I would pick, and that one has a very high dielectric strength too. So that one is not a bad choice there. But like I said, it's the least one used. I think mostly because people aren't familiar with that one. And then lastly, the bottom one is the 503, 328, and that's the red rubber silicone hose that goes around it to cut down on the wear and tear, and it adds a little bit of dielectric strength also. So we're pretty much familiar with that red silicone hose that we sell in 100-foot rolls there. Then basically here is just a breakdown of all the different part numbers in our manual, and we'll go through them one by one here. But you'll find all the parts there and the part numbers on one of the pages in the manual itself. So this is something I just added not too far, maybe 2-3 months ago, to the manual on the website. underneath ignition accessories. I would get a lot of calls with Teflon lengths and secondary resistances, and then also wire lengths, because that was never really spelled out really well in any of the pictures or anything. So I threw this in there a few months ago, and it gives you the exact resistance of every lead, the pre-made leads, the 6 that we make. And it also gives you the Teflon length tip to tip, and then it gives you the wire length. So from here, you can pretty much figure out exactly, if a customer has questions, that the Caterpillar 300 is a 4-inch piece of Teflon, and it's got 17 inches of wire, and it only has 1K of resistance, and that's in the actual coil connection, and there's nothing as far as resistance inside the Teflon itself. So any of the ones that say 1K would be the 1,000 ohms in the coil connector, and then there would be no resistance in any of the Teflon, because any resistance in the Teflon is always 5,000 ohms. So basically, this is just a breakdown of the Cat OE lead compared to ours. So the upper one, the orange one, is the Cat OE, and the cost is like around $58. It's completely non-rebuildable. There is no resistance, and there's no tight fit in O-ring. So drop down to the one below it, and that's the R's. You've got the mechanical wear accessory in the middle of the lead. Then you got the same height Teflon, but now this one's rebuildable. So you can unscrew that secondary wire. That secondary wire is roughly $1 a foot, and you can rebuild that. It might be 1.5 feet long. Well, it's 14 inches wire length, so it costs you $1.50 to put new wire in there. But the idea is you can rebuild them if you want. My experience with a lot of these people out in the field, when it comes down to a price of $44, they don't mess with it. They throw it away and buy new ones. But you might have a customer that's frugal, so then he has both choices. He can rebuild these things himself. So this one does have 1,000 ohms of resistance, where theirs doesn't, and that would be in the coil connection on the far right hand side, the black connector there, internal to that black coil connector is a 1,000 ohm resistor. And then again, this one is one of the ones we factory stock, and we'll have 72 of these around the factory, so you don't have to wait a long time for this particular device. And then the next one would be the Cat 3300. There's a lot of those out there, and their cost was around $73. Again, it's non-rebuildable, no internal resistor, no tight fit, no ring, 12 inches of wire, and ours is $40. So it's a good deal compared to the Cat OE. And again, it has the 1,000 ohms, completely rebuildable, 12 inches. It's got an O-ring inside of it, and we do stock that particular lead. At 3400, this one here, we just made a change to the price actually, because the Cat OE was more competitive this, so we dropped it to $44.50 under their price. And again, it's a high quality lead. It's got 6,000 ohms of resistance, so 5 in the Teflon and then 1 in the coil connector is how that works. And the VHP lead, so this one's got a rain boot. It's fairly long. I'd have to go back to that chart to see how long it is, but it's more in the 13-inch range. It's got the 6,000 ohm resistor, tight fitting O-rings, and again, it's high quality and for the Waukesha's VHP series engines. Now these coil towers, this comes up occasionally, and the Cummins they used a lot of these coil tower coils, the 591-040, and I got a lot of questions about this. So this is basically the coil that this lead is only used for. So this particular lead is not made for any other coil other than this tower coil. And again, it's very common on Cummins engines, so that's a lot of times where you'll see that particular coil. But it's 22 inches tip to tip. Inside it has 5,000 ohms of resistance. But the reason I had Chuck put the picture of the coil in, because a lot of people don't even recognize this coil, know what you're talking about when you say tower coil. But you can see the secondary tower at the top looks like the end of a spark plug. Completely different than our other coils. So this lead really is only designed for this style coil. And if you look at the right-hand side in this drawing, that SAE terminal will not fit down inside of a red epoxy or a blue 061 coil that we're familiar with. That lead is made for that coil tower and nothing else. So this lead can never be used with our standard red epoxy or blue epoxy coil. So that's why I wanted to bring that to your attention, because this has happened. And then this is a real picture of it. Again, it's just, and you can see at the top there that coil connector is different. It's made at a 90, and it's larger. It won't fit down inside that epoxy red blue coils. So be aware of that. And this is just an 855 BG Cummins lead, and then this is ours. So our 597 116 is made for Cummins 855. It has the 5,000 ohms. This particular coil has the cheaper coil connector there, so it doesn't have the 1K in it. So it depends on the application, but in this particular case, it's a little different than the other ones. But again, it's a high quality lead compared to the OEs and even to the BG one. And then lastly, we do sell a couple of spark plugs still. The J1463DP, which is a 3/4 inch reach. It would be comparable to the RN79G. It's a double platinum plug, and again, it's 14 millimeter. So we do still offer that for anybody that has those customers that are using that plug. A lot of the Cat small 6 1/4 boards and so forth. And then lastly, the L1863DP, again, a Cat application, was very popular, and it would be comparable to the RB75 PP or the RB76 PP Champion plug. So it's a 13/16 reach, and it's a double platinum plug also, 18 millimeter. So I just wanted to bring up that, we don't have as many plugs as we once did, but we still have these two models that, we still stock and offer. They were very popular, so we kept them on board. But, so this is just a quick rundown of the Flashguard leads, and then the Flashguard, a couple of plugs that we still offer.